A particularly fascinating thing about us human beings is that we go around the place pretending to know all this stuff. It's an act that we put on. We learn it without even knowing that we're learning anything. So it's an act that we don't know is an act because we think we do know what we're pretending to know. So this is really a kind of absurdity. It's an absurdity because it's so ludicrous. Well, it's ludicrous because it's so absurd. Wherever you, you might choose to look, there's people going around acting as if they really, really know what's going on. They totally know what's going on. This is a kind of a sense that you can get off people, that you do get off people. It's the sense that I know what's going on, or I know what it's all about, which is a fantastic act of bluff. It's an act of bluff that is so powerful that we're completely taken in by it ourselves. So the whole thing is a circus. It would be different if we were going around knowing what it's all about, or giving off this vibe that we know what it's all about, if we did know what it was all about. But we can't even, that isn't even worth considering as a scenario, since it's totally impossible for anyone to know what it's all about. Totally, totally impossible. Existence is a profound riddle. It's the most profound of all riddles. It's the only riddle, and it's also the most profound riddle, if that makes sense, which it doesn't. That's all that we can say about existence. The more you actually reflect on it, the more absolutely baffling it becomes. Absolutely unprecedented. Absolutely. It just knocks you. It just completely knocks you. So, in the face of the great enigma, we contrive to go around looking like experts. We contrive to go around looking knowledgeable and full of all this spurious confidence that comes with being knowledgeable. So really we're laughing in the face of the great enigma without realizing that we're laughing. And when I say we're laughing, I don't mean that we're being humorous. It's more like we're sneering at the great enigma in a kind of a way, only we don't know that we are, because we don't know that there is such a thing as the great enigma. And it's not that our understanding is limited and we're not aware of the limitations of our understanding. That isn't putting it correctly. We don't have any understanding. We never could. Nobody could ever have any understanding, not of anything that really matters. And that isn't a drawback or a limitation, or even though we think it's a limitation, it isn't. It's the absence of all limitation. It's complete freedom. Freedom not to be trapped in our own paltry mental constructs. That's the only freedom there is. But instead, we have this inverted form of freedom, which is the freedom to be trapped in our mental constructs, or in our collective mental construct, which is a positive world, without knowing that we're trapped in it. So as far as we're concerned, we're not trapped. As far as we're concerned, we know something worthwhile. And so this is the inverted analogue of freedom, which is the freedom not to be free. And if we did know that we weren't free, this would be freedom, because we are free to know that we're not free, but we're not free to know that we're not free. We don't have that freedom. We're dummies who don't know that we're dummies. If we knew that we're dummies, we'd be smart in that respect. So this is the whole realm of unconsciousness, which is what is referred to as unconsciousness, generally speaking. And what within the mystical traditions they talk about as being the state of sleep. We're hypnotized by our own ideas, and because we're completely hypnotized by our own ideas, there's never a chance that we'll see the world that lies outside of our ideas, which is the only world there is. That is the world. Our ideas aren't a world at all. They're just something ridiculous. So this has huge ramifications when it comes to mental health. And mental health, the world of mental health care, is a funny old thing. It's a funny old thing because somehow when we're in it and we're professionals within the world of mental health care, we suffer almost more than everyone else from this delusion that we know what it's all about. We have the expression on our faces that we know what it's all about. And in part, this is obligatory because part of the tradition of all healthcare professions is that we should inspire confidence in our clients or in our patients by looking as if we know what we talk about, and that's understandable. If I go around looking baffled and bemused, that's not exactly going to inspire much confidence in my clients. So to a certain extent, we can understand it. But the problem is that we fall for our own bluff and we actually think we do know what we're pretending to know. And really what we're doing here is we're trivializing the whole issue of mental wellness, mental unwellness. We're making it into a trivial thing. It's got to be a trivial thing if any of us can just do a few courses and know it, have it off pat. That's the definition of a trivial thing. Some things aren't trivial. Some things you can spend your whole life pondering and still not be an expert, still not get to feel cocky about it. Most anything important is like that. So we've trivialized what it means to be a human being, and we've trivialized the difficulties that are attendant upon being a human being. Very great difficulties. We've trivialized them by giving them names and categorizing them and turning them into diagnoses, so that then, hand in hand with the process of issuing a diagnostic label, is the idea that it can be readily fixed, or we can do this for that. So here we have the modern world in a nutshell. Always there have been these difficulties, but now we have this illusion that we kind of know what to do about these difficulties and that they can be fixed. That just do this simple thing, like it always says on the internet. Do this thing to cure that. Do this thing to cure that. Super trivial. There's no wisdom in that. There's no depth in that. That's just super trivial. Oh, I saw on the internet that you should do this thing if you're suffering from whatever it is. Bypasses the whole of life. There's no learning in there. You just do the thing. And so we are now treating the existential difficulties of human life as if they're mere trivialities. And that's what allows us to feel kind of knowledgeable about them and smug about them and complacent, really. And I know these aren't pleasant words to use, but I think it's fair enough to use them because that's the attitude that is engendered. Instead of being stripped of our pretenses and faced with the infinity of what we don't know by obtaining a cert in this or obtaining a qualification in that, the infinity of what we don't know becomes unknowable to us. We can't be aware of that, and we just know this label that we supposedly do know, and we believe it. Like, get a qualification, and I actually believe that means something, rather than realizing that it's just a hoop I have to jump through, a piece of paper. I actually think it means something. How can a piece of paper mean something? How can it be proof of anything? So there's something astonishing about the world of mental health care, in that we become more deluded, possibly, even than everyone else in the world, in terms of thinking we know what it's all about. Somehow we get to have this feeling about ourselves, which is, as I keep saying, is totally unwarranted. So we can relate this to philosophy and go back to what Heraclitus said. And he said something to the effect that nature loves to pretend to be what it isn't, which is a nice pithy statement. It's great if you're a philosopher to make pithy statements. They'll be remembered throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia, definitely. So if you're a great philosopher, it's good, good thing to come out with pithy statements. If I could do that, I'd be better off, but I can't really. So this pithy statement of that nature loves to pretend to be what it isn't has loads of ramifications. So nature pretends to be what it isn't because that's what it does. It doesn't show itself for what it is. And so then what do? Well, we believe that it is what nature pretends to be, or what the universe pretends to be. So we get taken in by the appearance. And it's only if we're prepared to do a little bit of work and scratch our heads, think a little bit. I don't mean thinking in terms of rationally going over and over it or analysing it, but thinking in terms of reflecting or pondering. When we put work into it, the universe will repay our work by showing us stuff. It'll show us a bit more of what it really is. But it won't show us that stuff if we don't put any work into it. Why the hell should it? If I'm content to be a gobshite, not to mince words too much, then the universe is very, very happy to play along with that. It absolutely will play along with that. Instead of challenging us, it'll say, yep, you're right, you got it right, yep, you're right there when you had that dumb thought, yep, you're right there. And then we kind of get validated and go around sticking with that dumb thought and never finding out anything more than that dumb thought or dumb belief. Human beings love beliefs, and a belief is a thing that shows that we've stopped thinking, as Robert Anton Wilson says. It's the evidence that we've stopped thinking in a philosophical sense. It's the death of everything. What it means is we're not prepared to put in the work. We're not prepared to put in the work and say, okay, I know it seems like this. Sure, it seems like this, but is it really? Are there any anomalies that I can find if I scratch the surface? So I'm prepared to put in the work of scratching the surface. And the more work I'm prepared to put in, the more wonders will be revealed to me, which is fair enough. You can kind of see, you can understand that. You can see what aesthetically there's something to that. You can appreciate the aesthetics of it. Give to the gobshite what that gobshite deserves. And that's fair enough. If I'm not at all prepared to put any work into it, then I don't get to see any wonders. I just get to see a bunch of crap, which is my own ideas reflected back at me. And yet, even though all I'm doing is seeing a bunch of crap, I don't generally realize it's a bunch of crap. I think it's fine. I think this is the way things are. And I go around feeling very certain, sure of myself, ontologically secure in a universe in which that's actually a thing that doesn't exist. There is no such thing as ontological security. That's another way of saying that the universe is a great enigma. There's no security when you're dealing with an enigma. There's only security when you're dealing with the crap which is our own thoughts reflected back at us. I have a theory. That theory is immediately validated by the universe. The universe is happy to validate any stupid theory that we might have. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves, as Robert Anton Wilson says. So then following on from that, what happens is a whole bunch of people get to believe whatever it is that this appearance is. And the appearance gets to be real by us not questioning it, by not scratching beneath the surface. And so collectively we get together and there's this appearance that is collectively understood and collectively said to be how things are. And so then we get a great collective of us who aren't prepared to scratch the surface. And that makes it even harder. That makes it even harder to go beyond this bullshit, really, the bullshit that we've chosen to believe. Because if we do start scratching, everyone else is going to turn on us. And they will be vicious. Nobody likes a scratcher. No one likes anyone who isn't satisfied with the official story. Because, as the English say, that just isn't cricket. That's the worst sin of all. That's a really bad thing. You're just not playing the game. They say, oh boy, that isn't cricket, is it? And it isn't, because you're not playing a game. You're actually interested in reality, which is not going to make you very popular with your peers. It's not going to make you popular. They won't like you for doing it. And so there's another huge reason why we get stuck in this, the presented reality, the official story of how things are. So the problem with this is, it might sound like we've got something for nothing. We've got the security of believing in our own super simplistic, dumbass picture of the world. And we get away with it because we go around thinking just as if we had actually achieved something, just as if we had put some work into it. So it sounds like we've got something for nothing. So we could even get fed up or jealous of all these people going around who seem to have got something for nothing and say, hey, how come? These guys, they didn't have to do any work and they're going around getting something for nothing. Is there no fairness in the world? It becomes an annoying thing potentially. Not necessarily annoying, but it could be, in a manner of speaking. But then if we look at it a bit more deeply, probably we won't be so jealous, because what's actually going on there is that when we do this thing of not putting in the work of actually examining reality, a strange idea to actually take an interest in finding out what reality actually is, and instead of being satisfied with what every other gobshite tells us. But when we don't put the work in, any work in, just passively go along with whatever we're told. Please tell me what to believe. Please tell me how to understand what life is. Please tell me how to understand who I am and what I should be doing in this world. Thank you. I'll go along with that. So that passive attitude means that the world never reveals its wonders to us. So then we have to live in a crappy world with no wonders. So we're missing out. I might be smug, I might be complacent, I might be validated by all my like-minded peers, but I'm missing out on all the wonders that are there. So although it might seem like I've achieved something, what I've achieved is a very cheap thing. It's tacky, and it's only the appearance of something. There's nothing in it. It's actually hollow. if there is such a thing as a universe which is full of wonders, inexplicable wonders, baffling wonders, whichever way you want to put it. And I go around in my own little tunnel thinking I understand everything and have got everything off pat, oblivious to reality and the depth of reality as it really is. Is that a good thing? Would I really want to be doing that? And clearly the answer is, well, no, not really, because that is making a complete idiot of me. I'm making a complete idiot of myself. I'm making an utter fool of myself. And okay, I don't know it, but do I still want to be that fool who doesn't know that he or she is a fool? So I might say, yes, I do, or I might say, no, I don't. I would say that once we can see clearly the spectacle of what it means to be going throughout your entire life without seeing the depth of reality, the depth of the world as it is, but just living in this suffocating world made up of our own assumptions about reality, which are utterly and suffocatingly banal without exception. I mean, that goes without saying. Of course, my crappy assumptions about reality are going to be suffocatingly banal. Obviously they are. So as soon as we see that, it becomes a horror to do this thing, to be satisfied with the make-believe reality of our own assumptions because we're too lazy or too scared. But laziness and scared actually go together because they're ultimately, our laziness is a manifestation of our fear of finding out that things are deeper than they appear to be. Therefore, they contain stuff that I don't know about that could be challenging, and that rocks the boat too much. So that if I did have the awareness, what I'm trying to say is that we would experience horror at what we have allowed ourselves to become, or how we have actually hoodwinked ourselves or bluffed ourselves in this way. Okay, thanks for watching.